UFOs in a Strange Universe. Welcome to UFOs in a Strange Universe. I'm Ivanhoe Chaput. I'm 78 years old and I've been studying UFOs and the paranormal since my first UFO sighting when I was 13 years old. I hope you enjoy my experiences and personal views on the strangeness of the UFO phenomenon in the following chapters of UFOs in a Strange Universe. Telepathy. In July of 2022, I posed a comment to a YouTube video on the idea that if humans could all of a sudden obtain the ability to communicate telepathically, most of the world's problems would vanish. I got hundreds of comments to my comment. Think about it for a moment. What if you suddenly became aware of another person's deep-seated intent, knew what the other person was thinking, understood what motives this person's thoughts had, and of course, understood that that person was lying? In this comment to a YouTube video about extraterrestrials having the ability to communicate telepathically, I posed the thought that aliens can't lie, at least to each other, because they will be totally understood telepathically by their peers. For humans, should aliens read our inner thoughts and we lie, we would be revealed as disingenuous and would instantly be exposed to them about our lie. Aliens would understand that our intent was to deceive, or we would be exhibiting intentions that were not in line with them. Lesson here? Never lie to an alien. Here on Earth, if we all became telepathic, then world leaders, politicians, bosses, employees, etc. would think twice before expressing words that are untrue. The internet, as of 2025, is riddled with unbelievable fake stories, thoughts, and ideas that express biases and untruths that permeate into our social structure. This affects the social climate where Generation X, and especially Generation Z, are so exposed to these lies that it's changing the way truth and lies have become blurred. It's as if they've developed the understanding that lying is just part of living their day-to-day lives. As opposed to the previous generation, and especially my grandparents, lying, especially white lies, have now become normal. Lying has somehow become perfectly okay. A study revealed that Gen Xers were more likely to lie about their alcohol consumption, and a recent study by the website Career indicated that nearly half of Gen Z job applicants admitted to falsifying information on their resumes. That's an astounding half of all applicants for jobs are liars. I was in business 41 years. Before that, I worked as plant chief engineer for some prestigious international companies. During my career, I rarely scrutinized job applications. However, I would have long conversations with job applicants and would get them to tell me some of the darndest things. I would interview them, sometimes for the entire morning, sometimes into the afternoon. After a few hours of personal chatting, I either liked the person or I didn't. Today, it would be unethical or even illegal to ask an applicant some of the questions I asked, but it served me well. I had some of the hardest working, dedicated, honest employees I could ask for. I was told often that I was the best boss they had ever worked for. I was honored and appreciative of those remarks. However, it was them that were the best employees that had ever worked for me. In the last several years of my business, I found that more and more people were telling me lies about not only their work experiences, but bold-faced lies about their personal lives, which I found out about after I had hired them. Things had changed over the years, and not for the better. Telepathic abilities would surely have eliminated some very bad experiences with a few people, a couple of them that interfered with my business, even after they were fired. One hounded me for an entire year. Most alien encounters involve communication through telepathy. There are claims that aliens speak directly into the minds of humans, while some will engage in verbal conversation in the human's own language. While alien contact and abduction cases have not increased over the past couple of decades, UFO sightings have. However, it's been reported that only 5% of people that have been abducted report it to any authority. Not that the police, military, your local congressman, or even friends and relatives would care enough to take them seriously. It's also known that abductees are taken seriously mostly by other abductees, empathetic researchers, and UFO groups. Some UFO researchers are postulating that Earth is an experiment in which life was disposed, and we were planted here with restricted mental abilities, maybe because we're dumber than the aliens that planted us here. When I read this idea is when I wrote my comment about telepathy being removed from humans. I posited that aliens wished to know what would happen if a genetically altered civilization had their telepathic abilities removed. Their thoughts would be retained within their brains, private to only themselves, and no one would be able to penetrate their intentions, secrets, motivations, and so on. Humans, unlike most alien races, could have their thoughts read, but would not be able to read others' thoughts. Would this experiment produce a race that develops characteristics of suspicion, greed, division amongst tribal factions, secrecy resulting in distrust and aggression toward others, misunderstanding and unclear communication, among many other character flaws? Aren't we living under these conditions now, and have been since humans have existed? If this is the case, when could this experiment stop, or will it ever? If all communication was clear and fully understood by others, where there was no misunderstanding, and nothing but total clarity was conveyed between people's thoughts, wouldn't we also get along better? On top of that, anyone trying to deceive, lie, coerce, or have intentions that were not pure or noble would be exposed immediately. There are examples of abduction cases where alien entities have moved in unison without communication, as if they communicated instantaneously. This reminds me of starlings moving simultaneously without any form of known communication. Could it be that starlings subconsciously communicate thoughts in order to dance the skies in such unison? Other alien communication examples with humans include things that were conveyed telepathically, where aliens knew every thought that a human was thinking with no misunderstanding. In 1624, the famous poet John Donne wrote, "No man is an island," arguing for connections of all people with God. Comparing the ability to communicate using telepathy in contrast to our inability to know what another is thinking, it can also be said that that man is an island. Using language to interpret thoughts with words that often do not express the precise meaning of that exact thought must surely require rephrasing John Donne's expression from "no man is an island" to "every man is an island." It's our thoughts that isolate each of us, and speech that reduces precise communication. Earth, with its 8.124 billion people, possesses exactly 8.124 billion unique individual experiences. No two people are identical in these experiences, not even identical twins. With so many abductions where telepathic abilities were used by aliens, are we more or are we less unique than them because of our inability to possess telepathy? We humans are restricted, contained within our personal thought bubble. This is also what governs each of our individual beliefs. What we do, or have ever done, physically and mentally, is a record of our course through life. What we think and have thought is also a record of who we have become. This dynamic is a process as we thread an unforeseen existence into the future. This seems obvious, with the exception that we really don't know where we came from before birth, or where we're going after death. I watched websites suggesting that Earth does not belong to us, that we belong to the Earth. Could it be that thought goes beyond the confines of our planet, and the Earth is a product of some greater intelligence, and it in fact belongs to that which created it? I will propose the idea that the lack of telepathic abilities is why we have no clue about where we came from and where we're going. Telepathy might also be the gateway to gaining spiritual knowledge and contact with non-human intelligence. People that have returned from a near-death experience have said that every question they ever had was instantly downloaded into their consciousness, even before they could utter their question. Maybe there is a good reason why we cannot communicate telepathically. Maybe someday the human race will attain or regain this ability, and many of the world's challenges will be solved.